I'm Peter Eddins. This is my studio here, and I'm a producer here in Nashville. So I got into producing and making music a while back. So back in high school, had access to GarageBand, started messing around in there. Had started playing saxophone in middle school, and that was what, kicked everything off. But I've got one older brother, and he found Ableton at one point and actually showed it to me when I was probably 13. And it was just, terrifying to see. I was like, nope, sticking with GarageBand here. Kept making some stuff in there, eventually graduated to Logic and would make beats and show them to some buddies I went to high school with. And all of a sudden one day, I'm showing it to him, and my buddy turns and says, "How much?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "How much for this? I want to buy this beat." And that's when it kind of popped in my head. I'm like, oh, okay, like some validation. Not that I was like, I'm gonna, sell beats or whatever. But it was like, okay, like production is a thing that maybe I can try to pursue. And so from there, ended up going to college and doing an undergrad in classical composition, and then went on to do a master's in film scoring. Then finished up my master's and moved here to Nashville and got to work. So a typical day here in the studio, we do 1 to 2 sessions here a day, and usually start like at 11 or so. So I budget some time in the morning when my ears are fresh to work on mixes, stuff like that in here, then allow the rest of the day for creative work. So we do a lot of rights for sync stuff in here or for artist projects, whatever it may be, and it's a pretty easy commute from my bedroom to the studio, so that's always nice too. So some of my favorite things up here, I've got my 500 series set up that I've been, putting together over the past couple years, and it's like, that's an addiction in and of itself. You have to fill all the slots. If I see an empty slot on there, I must buy something. And then I've got a handful of EQs and compressors on the bottom rack of it there that actually go into a built-in summing mixer in the Workhorse Radial brand chassis over there. And then aside from that, I keep a mic up here right in front of the desk at all times, just for, recording acoustic or horn or, even a vocal or whatever it may be. And that's kind of ever-changing what mic I have. Right now, I've got one of the Stager ribbon mics, which Matt Stager is here in Nashville, makes those incredible ribbon mics. That's actually one of the older models. And then aside from that, got the Warm Audio Neve clone down below, their 76 clone and the 2A clone, and all of those are amazing. I'm blown away by the Warm Audio stuff always. And my go-to vocal mic is actually the Warm Audio 251, which I keep in the vocal booth there. The mics that I typically reach for most often are actually this kind of strange motley crew of Electro Voice mics that I got a while back. The EV RE series, there's a few others that aren't REs, but everyone knows the RE20, the Stevie Wonder mic, but there's a lot of other mics in that series. And so aside from that, the tube mic in there is pretty much universally great on vocals. Really can't beat, some of the Shure classics. There are plenty of SM57s, SM58s, and then we have our SM7B that comes out occasionally. And actually, we just keep another SR2N, the Stager, on the amps in the back ISO chamber there. I guess there really isn't a main mic that I use. It's a array of everything. And all of that comes together into a Motu interface that I'm running currently right now. And it allows me to have 26 inputs in here. And I use 2 Focusrite Octapres to get up to that 26. So I've got one of the older Focusrite, I think it's the Platinum Octapre, which I keep over by drums. And then I've got their brand new Claret Plus. So it's been integrating incredibly nicely into the setup. It expands, ADAP functionality of my interface, so I get its 8 inputs just going optical. It's also got insert points on it, which, I'll occasionally use. Say if I'm tracking, a mic that I want to get up to line level to then send through a pedal board and then into an amp, if I'm feeling real crazy and like tracking saxophone and want to just blast something through my Memory Man and then into our Princeton Reverb, you can just, use the insert points for that, or you can also send it out and then I can patch it into my EQs or compressors. And then it's also got the air function on it, which I first came across with my Claret 4 Pre, and I pretty much just leave them on at all times, the air function. There is occasional times where I'll turn it off, and it's only if I'm using some noisy analog synth. But yeah, the Claret has been an awesome addition. It's one of those slight differences you think when you swap out, an old Octopre for a new one, and immediately it's like, okay, this does make a big difference. This sounds really crystal clear coming through. The transparency of the pre's is great. Some of the best AD converters that you can get on the market and at a great price point. So I highly recommend it. If you're looking to expand your inputs in your studio, it's the way to go. So we have some future plans of setting up our Studio B, which we've got a piano and just, basic kind of monitor setup. My other Claret lives down there when it's not, being taken on the road and whatnot. And with the Red line of interfaces that they've got, it would allow Dante connectivity. So we've actually got Ethernet already running in here all the way to downstairs. And in that instance, when we do get the Red interfaces in, we can have somebody down there on the piano, full band upstairs, somebody in the vocal booth, drums, guitar happening in there. And they can all be in cans together. The Dante connectivity really just allows me to turn any other room in this house into a either full, separate studio setup or just a expansion in the same way that I'm using the old Focusrite Platinum Octopre as a snake. It's essentially a Dante snake all the way down at the piano there. So that's our next step here is the piano's getting tuned next week, and then and then we will cross the next bridge.